Hello and welcome to REL 2502, Introduction to Christianity, Spring 2018. My name is Dr. Christopher Fouché, and I'll be leading this course. The purpose of this introductory lecture is to walk through the syllabus with you and to really get you oriented for what you can expect from this course, what you can expect from me, and also what I expect from you. And if we can both uphold our end of the bargain, we're going to have a good semester. We're going to learn a lot and have some fun. So let's dig in. So again, today it's introductions, introducing myself, introducing the course, walking through the syllabus, and then setting you up for week one of the readings. It's a short week, so hustle to get those books. Get Borg right first, because that's going to be the one we dip into first. And then the other piece of reading this week is an article that's on the website. By the way, if you're not familiar with Canvas, the syllabus is the front page of the course. You can click to get a PDF of the syllabus, but there's also the links. Anything outside the reading, any articles or whatnot that I want you to read, and there will be several, you will be able to find on the front page of the website. I will make sure the links are live and working properly and save you that difficulty. So all you have to do is click, read, and be on your way. So this week, week one, it was a section of Borg and Wright, and it was the article from McCutcheon, and I'm just going to tee those up for you. Sometimes it's going to make sense to watch these lectures ahead of the reading. Sometimes it's going to make sense to do it after. I will differentiate in the weekly newsletters, the weekly announcements that I send out. I will differentiate how best to get this material. But I would recommend that you watch these lectures. At the very least, hit the lecture notes under the Files tab of the course. There will be quiz questions that are pulled specifically from what I have to say, in addition to the reading. So if you miss that, you run the risk of missing out. So I'm going to try to keep these short. I'm going to try to keep them as painless as I can. But I do recommend that you use them because it's meant for me to help orient you to the bits of the reading that I found really important, to help orient you to the key ideas, and to make your life easier when it comes to prepping for assessments down the road. That's why they're here. So use them, take advantage of them, because they're going to be a weekly feature of this course. So with that being said, let me talk about myself. I am a PhD from the University of Florida. I graduated with my PhD in August of this past year from the religion department. I was on the religion and nature track, which basically looks at how religious expression and environmental concern, how they cross, how they intersect. Christianity was my focus, but in how it relates to virtue and specifically how it relates to environmental ethics and food ethics. How is there a virtuous way to eat which lines up with the teachings of this particular religion? What does this particular religion have to say about it? So it's kind of it is a degree on Christianity, but in some ways it's not. There's a lot more going on. But you can tell from my background, I have a PhD from UF. Before that, I have a Master's of Divinity degree from Gordon Commonwealth Theological Seminary, which was much more focused on Christianity. Obviously, you might know this. If someone gets a degree from a seminary, that means they're a practitioner. It's not something where it's not religious studies, and we'll talk about the differences between religious studies and theology. This was very much a theological degree taught by insiders for insiders for the purposes of propagating this religious expression. Now, if you are not a practitioner, and you might be getting nervous right now, let me assure you that is not my goal. We will talk a lot about the differences between religious studies and theology, and I am full aware, and you should be full aware, that this is a religious studies class. And what that means is, it's not something where I am assuming any religious commitment from you. Quite frankly, I don't really, I'm going to teach in such a way that I don't want you to know what my positions are on these issues. One of the fun things about this class is that a lot of people go into this class with their idea of Christianity. By the end of the class, one of my goals is to make you think in terms of Christianities, plural, because there are so many expressions and so many different belief systems that live under this banner of Christianity. And there are people who claim the name Christian who believe wildly different things, practice wildly different things. And one of my goals is to be cognizant of that, be aware of that, and specifically to show you that as we walk through. So MDiv from Gordon Conwell, BA from that school in Tallahassee. But if you're a football fan, sorry, neither one of our teams had much to had much to crow about this year. But both of our teams have new head coaches going into the upcoming year. So hey, hope springs eternal, right? As you can see in the picture, though, what matters far more than any of that is the fact that I am a father. My children are Juliana, who is 8, and Olivia, who is 4. They are far more important than anything else in my life. If you want to ask what characterizes me, what I take the most pride in, it is that designation of father. That's what matters more than anything else. So anyway, enough about me. This class is Introduction to Christianity, which is just a scary, huge topic. There are so many directions to go. There are so many things we could talk about. There are so many things we're going to have to leave out or skim over, which kind of is irritating, but it is the nature of the beast. So here's how we're going to go. We're going to start with the sources. Start with a book that's written specifically about the life of Jesus and the person of Jesus, and who exactly is this guy. And then also talk a little bit about the Bible. So the foundational sources for Christianity, the life of Jesus, controversial as that is, and the scriptures, controversial as that is. You're going to find a lot of, it's a religion class, you're going to find a lot of controversy. It's just the way it is. It's the nature of the beast. But we'll talk about how to deal with that a little bit later on. So anyway, starting with the sources, Jesus and the Bible, moving into the central tenets of Christian theology. We're going to talk about sin. We're going to talk about salvation. We're going to talk about Christian anthropology, the doctrine of humanity and what that looks like, and all sorts of other things. We're going to move into Christian history, because Christian history and Christian theology, it's hard to separate one from the other, because these main beliefs, these extrapolations from the Bible, for instance, that someone like Augustine makes or someone like Aquinas makes, they become theological pillars that last thousands of years that people are still leaning on today. So I'm going to talk about history. I'm going to talk about those main figures, Augustine, Aquinas, Luther, and some others. And then we're going to move into some modern expressions of the faith. And in particular, we're going to end the course talking about how Christianity as a religious expression intersects with and handles modern issues. We're going to talk about equality, both from a perspective of race, LGBTQ, and also gender issues. We're going to talk about equality. We're going to talk about technology, the environmental crisis, how that plays itself out. I'm going to talk about science, evolution, all sorts of really fun, controversial things. And we're going to talk about politics, which in the light of our current president and how he got into office, that relationship between Christianity and modern politics is fascinating. So we're going to spend some time talking about that as well. So yeah, it's a lot. So what that means is we're going to have to move quickly and not cover any of those things I've just mentioned. You could get several courses. I mean, they could be a point of emphasis for a degree, basically. And I'm covering them in one class. So there's going to be weeks where it's like, hey, what'd you do this week? Well, we moved through 1,000 years of Christian history. Kind of mind-blowing. And what that also means is there are going to be some segments where I'm going to have to move quickly. So if you have, I'll say this a lot of times, this will be the first time I say it. If you have questions, if you have concerns, if you have things that you don't understand, it is you have to take the initiative to get on the horn and let me know. I am going to make myself as available as I possibly can, but you have to be the one to reach out. Because if I don't hear from you, my assumption is going to be you understand everything perfectly, you've got no issues, and you're moving forward. So if that's not you, if you are stuck, if you are confused, or if you see something that really strikes your imagination and you get frustrated because I have to spend 5 minutes on it and you'd like to spend a little bit more time on it, reach out. Say, hey, I thought this discussion of John Calvin was really interesting. I come from a Reformed tradition, but I don't know that much about it. Can you give me some more resources for how to dig deeper into that? I will be overjoyed to have that conversation with you and to lead you on to some places where you can dig a little bit deeper. So this is going to be a class where we move quickly and cover a lot. I can't cover everything, so I want to give you a representative sampling. So one of my goals for this class is diversity. I want to give you Catholic writers. I want to give you Protestant writers. I want to give you Western Christians. I want to give you Eastern Christians. I want to give you people who aren't Christians who are writing about Christianity. I want to give you practitioners, people who actually believe it. I want to give you a lot of different looks. And then also I'm going to give you theology. I'm going to give you history. I'm going to give you literature in the form of a novel. I'm going to give you modern controversies. I'm going to give you YouTube lectures to watch. There's going to be a lot of different types of sources. So diversity is the main goal. I want to give you bits and pieces. I want to expose you to as many different perspectives as I can, and show you how many different perspectives live under the name Christian. So diversity is one of my main goals. The other major goal that I have is objectivity. And I'll say this again. I have no desire to be a cheerleader. I have no desire for you to believe what I believe. I have no desire to make it obvious what I believe. If it's obvious where I land on these issues, then I'm not doing my job. So my goal is to be objective. I have no desire to be a cheerleader, but I also don't want to be a cynic, because I do think it's possible to swing too far in the other direction and assume that everything that's connected to any religious expression, Christianity included, must be regarded with a skeptic eye. I'm not big on the hermeneutic squint, which I think was a Nietzschean term. I think it is possible to examine these religions, examine Christianity in particular, with a clear head and an open mind. So I don't want to put you in a position of saying, I want you to believe any of this stuff. I'll put you in a position where I want you to disbelieve in any of this stuff. I'm going to say this as kindly as possible. I don't give a shit where you land on these issues. And I hope you don't care about where I land on these issues. What I'm trying to do is to be a tour guide, to show you these different perspectives and say, hey, these people over here believe this, and these people over here believe this, and isn't this interesting how they do this? But it's still all under the banner of Christian. That's what I'm trying to do. So I hope that comes across in the class. I hope that that desire for objectivity comes across. All right, so I'm going to walk through the syllabus briefly. The first thing you see is my contact information. Use that. Again, do not hesitate to reach out and to use that information. I'm not in Gainesville much. I live in Orlando. I have a full-time job. I work for Orange County Public Schools. So what that means is, it means a couple things. Number one, electronic communication is going to be my friend. It's going to be yours too. So that means email. That means FaceTime. That means Skype. That means whatever it means. Whatever your preferred mode of communication is, let me know. I'll try to make it happen as best I can. I have a day job, Monday through Friday, basically 8 to 5. So my communications with you are more likely going to be on evenings and weekends, just so you know. But I will, if you send me an email or if you drop me a line in any form or fashion, I will bend over backwards to get back to you as quickly as I can. I really want to be responsive to your needs. This class is not to feed my ego. This class is to feed your education and to help you meet your educational goals. So I want to facilitate that, and I want to help with that. So that's what I'm going to try to do. So use that. Then we go into the books. We're going to take text from the scriptures, the Bible, obviously. Please don't go out and buy a Bible if you don't already have one. Use the million free websites that are out there. Save yourself some money. Second, Borg and Wright, The Meaning of Jesus. I love this book, and I'll explain why in a little bit, but get it first, because this is the book we get into first. McGrath, Introduction to Christianity. This is definitely the most textbooky book of the 5. Absolutely critical, because this is the book that provides the spine and the structure for the class. I'm basically following McGrath's outline, and I'm going to be using him a lot, and you're going to be reading a lot of the stuff in that book. Endo. Silence is a little bit of a different direction. It's a historical novel that I'm going to ask you to read, and we'll get into that as we get closer to it, but basically it's a historical novel that has Christian themes and shot through with Christian theology, so we'll talk about that. And then the last one is Dreyer, How Dante Can Save Your Life, which is kind of an unusual thing, but what it is taking classic Christian art and using it to solve modern problems. So it's one of those things where it's, that's what's going on. Forgive me 1 second. Sorry, I'm going to try to limit the noise in the background. So anyway, those are the books. So I would, again, get Borg and Wright first. As far as the work goes, it's going to be a lot of reading and writing because, it's a humanities class. That's kind of what we do. 1,000-point scale in terms of grading. So, if you get 940 points out of a possible 1,000, your grade's a 94. Pretty basic. As far as the assignments go, there are quizzes, 4 of them throughout the semester, 60 points apiece. Quizzes are going to be a variety of true, false, multiple choice, and short answer questions. You're going to have the quiz questions, which is basically a weekly assignment to show me that you're reading and you're comprehending the reading. Basically what you're doing is you are giving me quiz questions. You're giving me a true false, a multiple choice, and a short answer question based on the reading. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to collect all those questions you give me. I'm going to grade them, obviously. And how am I going to grade them? I'm going to grade them on their connection to the reading and basically the evidence that you've thought through and that you understand it. Gravitate towards the main points of the reading when it comes to your questions. Don't try to give me something really esoteric and off the beaten path. But you're basically giving me quiz questions every week. I'm compiling those quiz questions, taking the best ones, cleaning them up a little bit, and then giving them back to you in the form of weekly study guides. And for the questions for the quizzes are going to be exclusively pulled off of those study guides. So you're basically writing your study guide as you move along through the class. So you'll be giving me these quiz questions. I'll be giving them back to you in the form of a study guide. And then on the quiz themselves, they will be comprised entirely of the questions you give me. So again, it's a way to keep, it's not busy work because writing questions is actually harder. Like, it's harder to come up with good questions than it is to come up with answers to questions I will give you. But it's also a way to help you when it comes to quiz time. There's also reflections and discussions. Typically, I'm going to be asking for your answer to my reflection question by Wednesday of the week. Obviously, this first week, I'm not doing that. They're both due Friday. But on normal weeks, I'm going to pose a question. You're going to answer that question by Wednesday night, and then you're going to respond to another classmate's answer by Friday night. So that's going to be how that happens, and you'll see that as we go along. There's going to be a final exam, which is not listed in the notes. I'll give you more information about that as we get closer. And then there's going to be two papers, the church visit paper and the Christian interview paper. The best thing I can do is say read the appendices to the syllabus, Appendix A, Appendix B, to get a better impression of what those are going to entail. But again, you'll get more information about this as we go. See the syllabus. Again, see the syllabus, see the syllabus. If you have questions, see the syllabus. If you want to know something, see the syllabus. That's probably where it is. Ask questions if anything is unclear. But if you want course descriptions, if you want due dates, if you want just more information about what these things entail, and again, for the papers, look at the appendices to the syllabus. That'll be the best way to find it. Plagiarism, there's a section on plagiarism in the syllabus. The onus is on you to find out what it is and to avoid it. I'm going to use Turnitin. I'm going to actively hunt for plagiarism. I'm going to bust you hard if I find it. So don't do that. Classroom behavior, classroom is in quotes because it's an online classroom, but this is a religion class. So the only way we're going to get through this is if we remember the watchword of respect. Respect each other. And this applies to the reflection and discussions as much as anything else. Respect each other. Respect each other's perspective. Respect viewpoints. Respect differences in viewpoints. Conversations on religion can get heated, and I am purposely going to ask you controversial questions. So handle it with a sense of respect, with a sense of dignity, watching after each other, and all will be right with the world. When it comes to turning in work, also, there's no TA in this class, which means I won't have time to follow up and ask you why, hey, I didn't get your reflection questions. Is everything okay? I don't have time to do that. I'm just going to mark a 0 and move on. So if you're having any issues in terms of turning in work, again, do take the initiative, reach out, say, hey, can you tell me, make sure this went through? I don't see it on the grade. I'll be more than happy to verify that for you. So anyway, that's the syllabus in a nutshell. I ask if you have questions, but in the meantime, the reading, so let me set up the reading for you. The first one is the document that's on your website, What is the Academic Study of Religions, written by a man named Dr. Russell McCutcheon, who's a religious studies scholar for the University of Alabama, or at least he was. He's a religious studies scholar. He's not a theologian. And if you're new to religious studies, you might be going, hey, what's the difference? There's a huge difference. A lot of people who take classes like this, and trust me, I was one of them in undergrad, who come out of a religious background, say, hey, Introduction to Christianity. I've been a Christian my whole life. I've been in Sunday school my whole life. This will be easy. And then they get their mind rocked a little bit because there's a profound and fundamental difference between religious studies and theology. Theology is insiders talking to insiders. How do we understand the religion in terms of how we believe it and how we propagate it and how we act on it? Religious studies is outsiders looking in. We are not interested in propagating any types of beliefs at all. We are interested in the academic study of religion. There's a term that is useful for this. That's methodological agnosticism. We don't know if the claims that the religion is making are true, and we don't care. That's not what we're after. We are studying the religion and those who follow it. So that is religious studies, and that's what McCutcheon wants to lay out. And this is why this is the first piece of reading for this particular class. This is not theology, this is religious studies. And McCutcheon does a nice job of differentiating the two, distinguishing theology from the academic study of religion. And he will say we need to use a non-evaluative comparative method when we talk about the study of religion. So I want you to think about what that means and make sure you understand what that means. And then the next piece of reading comes from Borg and Wright, Meaning of Jesus, the first part of it. These are theologians. McCutcheon is a religious studies scholar. This is a religious studies class, but Borg and Wright are theologians. They are not religious studies scholars. So they are writing as practitioners. But they disagree on a great deal. Marcus Borg is, for our purposes, is representative of a more progressive point of view, a more liberal point of view, whereas N.T. Wright is representative of a more conservative point of view, a more traditionalist point of view. So they disagree on a lot, and particularly when it comes to Jesus. And they write this book, basically it highlights their differences in the way in which they see the life and person of Jesus. But the beautiful thing about this book, and the reason that I love it so much, is that they're both brilliant, but they're both friends, and they disagree well. It's a warm discussion between friends, and it's not antagonistic at all. It's not sharp at all. And I love it because it gives us the information we need, but it does it in a way that provides a really important model, especially for 2018. How do we take this really controversial stuff and how do we disagree well when it comes to that? And this is a beautiful model for it. So anyway, McCutcheon says that faith and scholarship are completely incompatible with each other. That's not what we're doing here. Wright says faith and scholarship are together. They can work together. They can strengthen each other. Borg holds them in tension. So I want you to explore how that works, how that plays itself out, and the differences between the three, basically. The key question, the key disagreement is it possible for religion scholars to be objective? McCutcheon, as a religious studies scholar, is essentially saying that we can take this thing called Christianity and we can hack it open. We can throw it on, we can treat it like a scientist treats a specimen. We can throw it on the table, we can shine the light on it, we can slice it open and see what's inside of it. We are examining it like a specimen in the lab. Borg and Wright, but in contrast, no, we are people and we bring our stuff to the table and we need to keep that in mind. Wright goes so far as to say there is, after all, no such thing as objectivity in scholarship. McCutcheon, in religious studies in general, is trying to separate the viewpoint of the person studying it from the religious expression itself. Wright says that's impossible. Borg agrees, but in a slightly different way. But there is a real difference in terms of what is the source of authority. Wright, as someone who says faith and scholarship need to go together, he will flat out tell you that his ultimate authority, his referee, is the faith and the expression of God that he believes in. Whereas McCutcheon says the ultimate authority is, for lack of a better term, scholarship, and in some ways the scientific method, in terms of discerning what the core of this religion is all about. So again, three scholars with three very different takes on this issue. But the central question is it possible for us studying a religion, like we're fixing to study Christianity, is it possible for us to do it objectively? Or do we bring our own stuff? And how do we deal with the fact that we bring our own stuff? How does that work itself out? So I will leave it there and leave the rest to you to read it. McCutcheon is dense but fairly short. Borg and Wright a little bit longer, but written for a popular audience, which means it reads a lot more quickly. There are no quiz questions yet. They will begin next week, but there is a reflection and discussion due. Again, typically, your reflections will be due Wednesday of the week, and your answer to another student's reflections will be due Friday. But since this week is weird, they're both going to be due Friday. And then also start thinking about who to interview for your Christian interview paper. I'm serious. These due dates are going to come quick, so stay out ahead of them. And Think about who you're going to interview. Do not, at the last minute, say, hey, I need to interview someone for this paper. Are you interested? Start thinking now and ask early. Give them plenty of time to plan it out. Don't make your lack of planning become their emergency. So that is the marching orders for this week. Again, if you have any questions or if you need anything, do not hesitate to reach out. Otherwise, welcome again to the class. And I hope it's going to be helpful. I hope it's going to be enjoyable. I hope it's going to be something that really is contributing to your educational objectives.